dear students. We shall start today, rather continue with organisms and populations, which is chapter number 13. Now, the last time that we met, we had discussed quite a few things in the previous lecture. Our today's lecture is going to be a bit faster. We are not going to waste time in the explanation part because the information today processed or given is very generalized. I request all of you to kindly mute yourself. Please, everyone, mute yourself. Okay, all right. So, today we shall be discussing about the major abiotic factors with relation to or in relation to organisms and population. Now, in last lecture, we have talked about terms like niche, habitat, ecology, environmental biology, and biosphere. Today, we will precisely discuss about major abiotic factors, factors that are non-living in nature, that do not possess life. So all the non-living components shall be discussed by us in today's chapter. The first component or factor that will be studied by us is temperature and how it affects organisms and population. This is one factor that is ecologically of great significance or relevance. And why? Because you see that the temperature all over the globe varies. There is a huge spectrum of temperature that is seen all over the globe. And this variation is from sub-zero levels, which is seen minus zero levels, below zero levels, which is generally seen in polar areas and high altitude. Also, we see temperatures of the other extreme end, that is high temperatures, which is up to 50 degrees Celsius in the tropical deserts. These temperatures may vary, may fluctuate seasonally or sometimes also within the daytime. So if you try to see the desert temperature, you see that the desert has extreme high temperature towards the day. At the same time, the desert that contradicts this temperature towards the night. So the nights are generally very cool and the days are extreme hot. So we see that there is progression of this temperature which decreases from the equator being the hottest towards the pole being the coldest. Also, you see that the mountain top has decreased temperature and the plains has a higher temperature. These temperatures are very unique to the habitat. You will see all over the globe precisely specific temperatures, like, for example, the hot springs have a temperature of about 100 degrees plus Celsius, and also deep seas have temperatures which have vents within them, which also have a high temperature, sometimes ranging from as high as 400 degrees Celsius. Because
Excuse
of extreme temperatures, yes,
ma'am, I am unable to hear you clearly.
Maja,
Yes, ma'am.
please check your uh, network, beta. It can happen that
So,
because of network
actually,
issue.
Ma'am, we also not able to hear.
Yes,
Ma'am,
ma'am,
I
your
am also
voice.
sorry.
y- Yes, ma'am, I am also not able to hear you clearly.
My network here shows internet access full. So I don't think there is an issue from my side. However, if the sound clarity is not good enough, this is a factor that we cannot take care of. Let's hope that things become better, but otherwise, what we can do is immediately after the lecture, I am sending you the recording. Will that be okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Because
Yes,
what
ma'am.
I feel is to hold on, to wait for the network to improve is not a great idea because we are missing out on time. What do you say?
Yes, ma'am.
Can send
Okay.
the recording after the lecture.
Yes, all right. Will I continue?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay. Fine. So please mute yourselves, each one of you, so that there is no disturbance. All right. Fine. So, if you see on a general note, few organisms can tolerate, can accept, and thrive in a wide range of temperatures. And these organisms, which can actually accept a wide range of temperatures, are called as euthermic or eurythermal organisms. Organisms which are pretty comfortable in extreme temperatures or have a wide bifocal point of varying temperatures which can be adjusted or which can get adjusted are termed as eurythermal temperature surviving organisms. Also, some organisms show that they can adjust themselves to a narrow range of temperatures. And these organisms that can adjust to narrow range of temperatures are called as stenothermal organisms or organisms that can adjust to a very little or limited zone of temperature. There you come to a conclusion that temperature plays a vital role in the lives of organisms. So temperature being a abiotic component is quite capable of influencing the life of an organism or bringing about a change in the overall well-being of an organism. The second component that we will see in the abiotic factor is water. Now, we all know that water plays a very important role in affecting the organism's life. We know that life has originated from water and its availability on different parts of the earth is restricted. Accordingly, there are biomes that are being formed. Accordingly, organisms have adapted themselves for their survival. This productivity and distribution of plant and organisms is widely dependent on the availability of water. So we can see that there are various water bodies that are present on the globe. And these water bodies are freshwater bodies and saline or marine water bodies. We see that the kind of animal life that is seen in a fresh setup, water setup, and an alkaline water and a saline water setup is very much varied, is very different. And depending on this setup, the life cycle of an organism also flourishes. For example, for aquatic organisms, the chemical composition and pH of the water are very different, and thereby the salt concentration or the salinity of the water in parts per thousand decides how well the organism can adapt to the surrounding environment. So, this salinity, which is measured in parts per thousand, is less than 5 in fresh waters and 30 to 35 in seas and oceans. In hypersaline or extreme saline environment like lagoons, this salinity may go up to 100 parts per thousand. Thus, because of this saline component, you see a varied structure of organisms in each of the setup. Some organisms are tolerant to extreme salinities, and hence the word that is used in your textbook is urealine, whereas some are not so well adapted to the wide range, and they are called as stenoline. These words could be used in the form of MCQs. Many freshwater animals cannot live in seawater and vice versa. The principle behind this is very simple because they cannot adjust to the osmotic problems that they would face in each of the setup. So, we all know that water also plays an important role in the life of an organism. So far, we have seen two factors. One is the temperature, second is the water, both of which are responsible for the life of an organism. The third component is light. There is not much that we need to talk about light because enough of it has been discussed in the last year's chapter, which is photosynthesis. However, just to throw some light on the topic of light as a component, which is of abiotic form, I would like to add that light will help in photosynthesis. Because of photosynthesis, the cycle starts of life. So plants and herbs, shrubs growing on the forest are adapted to perform photosynthesis. These adaptations could be depending on the intensity of the light. So if there is too much of light, they could grow up to a certain environment. Whereas if there is very little light, there is also some other setup of plants and animals that you see. So, depending on the percentage of light or availability of light you see, so is the vegetation. Also, for animals, you will see that diurnal and seasonal variations in light intensity and duration are clues for timing the reproductive cycle, timing the migratory activities in birds and animals. What do you mean by this? What you mean is light is the deciding factor for animals to function. We are very well aware about the rodents that sometimes rule our kitchens, but their activity is noted only during nighttime. So it is with so many desert animals. In relation to this, I would like to add up one small out of the context part. You must all see the movie Pitch Black. It's an excellent movie. It has got to do, it works on the principle of light. It's a sci fi movie. It's about this planet where light is going to disappear and it's going to go into total darkness, and how life on that planet is going to get affected. So you have to see this movie just to understand the perspective of how light can affect the overall life on this earth. The availability of light is also dependent or a deciding factor for temperature of that particular area. For obvious reasons, sun is the one which is a common factor for both, and hence sunlight, because of which there is light, and the vegetation or the temperature are all codependent. The fourth component I have just missed out here, girls, is soil. Soil is again an abiotic component that helps the uh, in deciding the vegetation and thereby the animal structure of a particular biome. The nature and properties of soils are very much dependent on the climate, because the climate will decide the weathering of the rocks, how the rocks will finally be crushed down to form the soil. There could be various factors that decide the texture of the soil, like the composition, the size of the grain of the soil, the water percolating ability of the soil, its ability to hold water, which is water holding capacity. These factors actually make up the soil. Along with these factors, in addition to these factors, the pH, the mineral composition, and topography, where this soil is present, will determine the
Excuse me, ma'am.
vegetation of the soil. Yes,
Ma'am, the slide has not changed.
Humera,
Yes, ma'am.
you are disturbing me in my lecture.
Sorry.
Thank you. All right, fine. I will comment on what she has said towards the end of the lecture. There is a reason that I am using this kind of setup for today's lecture. Okay. Not that I have objections, but there is some, I didn't want to mention this now. Please listen carefully to all that we are doing in the lecture, because we have something interesting coming up towards the end. Is everyone paying attention?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. So, just give me a second. Where was I? Okay, all right. So, I was talking about how the soil decides the vegetation of a particular biome, correct? And during evolution, many species have evolved at a relatively constant environment because of these setups, that is the abiotic components, which is the soil, which is light, uh, there is temperature, and also water. Fine. Now, to survive and flourish in any environment conditions, the organism has to adapt to the surrounding conditions. And with this, we are going to today revise about another concept, which is adaptations. Now, what do you mean by regulation? Some organisms are so well adapted that they have something called as homeostasis. By physiological, that is internally their body structures are made in such a way, and behavioral also, if there is extreme heat, they will burrow themselves into the furrows so as to protect them from the heat and ensure constant body temperature and constant osmotic concentration so that there is better functioning of that organism. All birds and mammals are capable of such a thermoregulation and osmoregulation, maintaining the body temperature and adjusting the body to the external environment. The second point that is given in your textbook is conform. Most of the animals and plants cannot maintain this constant internal temperatures. It happens in our life also. We cannot be calm and cool in all conditions. There will be moments where we will have our own fluctuations. So, this internal environment, which is highly influenced by external factors, is said to be a conformer situation. What is to conform in an animal? To conform in an animal is when the animal's internal environment is highly influenced by an external setup. Whatever the external conditions are, our internal environment gets affected. Now, their body temperature changes with the external setup. In aquatic animals, these conditions or the osmotic concentration of the body fluids changes with that of ambient water concentration. Ambient is circulatory, which is surrounding, which is making the ambience. These animals and plants are simply conformers, which means these animals and plants are highly affected. कुछ भी बाहर अगर होता है तो उसकी वजह से अंदर का एनवायरनमेंट चेंज हो सकता है. Some species, however, have evolved the ability to regulate within a period of time. They change themselves. And how do they regulate? Sometimes they adjust to the environment. Otherwise, coming to the next point, they migrate. Every organism will try to adapt and adjust, and if they are not able to adapt and adjust, nature has given them a unique quality of migrating. So, you will find many animals and birds undergoing migration or migrating to long distances to find a suitable, more hospitable area so that they can adapt well to the new conditions for their betterment. In some plants and animals, you will see suspension. And what do you mean by suspension? In plants, seeds serve as a means to tide over periods of stress. भले ही एक हाथ प्लांट चला जाए लेकिन उसके सीड की वजह से वो प्लांट फिर से germinate हो सकता है and can grow into a full-fledged plant. And this ability to germinate and form a new plant under favorable conditions is a unique ability for continuity of life. And how are they going to do that? They do so by reducing their metabolic activity completely. And we are very well versed with the word dormancy. Some seeds are continue to remain in dormant state, continue to remain in a state of complete rest. Only when they get favorable conditions, they are going to flourish. In animals, also, you see something similar like this. You see hibernation in polar bear. Some snails and fishes also undergo estivation, which is almost identical to hibernation, except for the fact that polar bears undergo hibernation when there is too much of cold, and estivation is where snails and fishes undergo complete rest because of extreme heat in extreme summers. So here you see that the animals and plants have their own ways to cope up with the changes in the environment. So far, what we have done is we have completed the abiotic factor, which is temperature, which is water, which is light, and soil. These four abiotic factors and how they affect an organism and the population. We're going to start on with the next part, which is actual how they adapt. Again, adaptations we have seen in last year's practical part. We are just going to touch upon the basics of adaptations. We all know, and we have discussed some time back, that to cope up with extreme variations in the environment, some organisms respond through physiological adjustments, internal body adjustments, while sometimes they show some change in behaviors. These adaptations are very useful and they help the animal to continue with life. This enables the organism to survive and also reproduce in the habitat. There are many examples of desert plants that have developed a thick cuticle on their leaf surfaces and have their stomata also, which is deeply sunk so that minimum water loss is seen. We have seen in photosynthetic activity plants where that they follow a particular pathway so that their stomata can remain closed during daytime, which is the CAM pathway, crassulacean acid metabolism pathway. Plants like Opuntia have modification already studied by us last year, where they have their leaves which are reduced to spines and they show photosynthetic function, which is taken over by stems. Mammals, animals in colder regions have snouts, ears, tails, limbs to reduce the body heat which will be otherwise given out. You see their bodies are covered with a fat layer or blubber. Their bodies are covered with fur which acts as an insulating layer for these animals to prevent loss of body heat. Some organisms show behavioral responses. The deserts, lizards, what it does, it tries to absorb the sun by basking in the sun when they require the body heat. And when they do not require the body heat, they will burrow themselves under the sand. So you see that all kinds of adaptations are seen in organisms. So far, we have seen the factors controlling abiotic parts and we have seen also adaptations. The next part that we are going to study is organisms in organisms and populations is the population part. Okay. Now there was someone who had interrupted in between. I would have respected it much if the questions came in towards the end. There was a flow that the teacher has, if possible, because we are not in a one-to-one environment where we can just give me a second, girls. Yeah, one-to-one environment where we can discuss as much as possible. When we start with the lecture, please do not interrupt. I will take just 60 seconds to explain, rather give an explanation because I hold the position here. The main reason for me not putting the context or making a PPT and just putting one picture is for you to understand the idea. All you need to remember is just the words for this particular part so that you can elaborate and write so much. Coming to the point, you each one has to create an assignment for yourself, and I will ask you all to upload the assignment. Now, what is it that I expect you to do in this assignment? If I would have put up the PPT, you would have copied exactly what is there on the PPT. Now you know the points that have to be covered. Okay, yes, all right. So there is light, there is soil, there is temperature, yes, there is adaptation that we have done so far. For each of this, I would want you all to write few points, just important words, and as much as possible, fill it up with pictures. Now, how will these pictures be? These pictures will be classical examples that can be used for water, temperature, light, and soil. Say, for example, if I talk about soil, I will talk about how the soil is responsible for deciding the habitat of an organism. How the habitat is formed because of the soil as an abiotic factor. How some organisms can burrow themselves in the soil. You could give examples. How some birds are able to migrate when the conditions become difficult. All of this you can use to make your assignment for today, which will be only of 5 slides. 1, you will have light. 2, you will have soil. 3, you will have temperature. And 4, you will have water. And the last one will be adaptations. So your slides will be filled with pictures. You have to minimize all your pictures and post them up so that that one slide is a example of all that you want to say. Like they say that a picture speaks 1,000 words. Am I clear about this? Humaira, will you please unmute yourself?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Am I clear about this?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, I don't want any child to speak in between because we are talking. So today's lecture was about not a PPT, it was about me talking. I had prepared something. Okay. Not that it is not okay, it is okay. But as much as possible, before we start with the lecture or towards the end, keep your question and queries except for two things. You are not able to see the slide, you are not able to hear the sound, and you are there is disruption in the connectivity. Yes, thank you very much for this. Okay, we move. Okay, one more thing. The whole idea of not using a step by step approach is the next chapter that we are studying requires a lot of PPT. I want to use the PPT technique for that chapter now. This, see, obviously, what we have used towards the start is we have used a lot of PPT to explain niche, habitat, and other things. Right now, in today's lecture, it's quite general. So we can talk and we can discuss. Okay, is that clear? I request you all to open page number 298. Our next part is about population. Page number 298. Be ready. In organisms and populations, the next part is population. Please remember one thing. This is very simple to understand. एक चीज 10 बार बोलने की इधर जरूरत नहीं है. So that is the reason. Let me just follow this speed and tempo. Where there is requirement, I will repeat the same thing again and again. Be assured about it. Is that clear with all of you? Am I clear? With things that are important, I will have a repetition of the same. But here it's quite general. So we will try to touch upon it, understand it. All you have to do is just pay attention. There is nothing actually to understand as such or to explain. We just need to pass on the information which we are doing. Okay? Yes? All right. Let's start. Okay. So let's come to page number 297, 98. In this part, the first part, we are talking about what is a population, what are the attributes of the population, what are the basic characters of the population. All of this is given on page number 298. Although it is an individual organism that has to cope up with the changes in the environment, however, with each organism changing, the population will be affected. And nature will always pick up on what is best via natural selection. So, natural selection will help us to understand the desired traits, the traits which are good for an organism, and these traits will be picked up by that organism. There is a wider term that you can use for this, which is population ecology, study of the population. This population ecology is of great significance because it helps us to understand ecology, helps us to understand how a population functions by showing us the population dynamics, population numbers, genetics of the population, and thereby eventually we are able to understand the evolution. A population has certain attributes of its own, has certain characteristics of its own, certain rules of its functioning, which are very different from those of an individual. Basically, if you need to understand a population, there are two things that you should know. One is the size of the population. Second is the density of the population. What is the size of a population? A size of a population is the number of the total individuals that are seen in a population. What is density of a population, girls? Density of a population is the number of individuals that are seen, that are noted in per unit space in a given time. There are many factors that decides the population dynamics. And today we are going to study about the natality, mortality, sex ratio, and the overall distribution of age and the pyramid of the age. So today we shall see what is natality, how it affects the population number. We shall see what is mortality and its impact on the population growth, the sex ratio, which also decides or finally leads to the reproductive cycle and the growth in number, and in what age is the population distributed, depending on which the pyramid is formed. These characters overall decide, these are mechanics of the population dynamics which decides how a population flourishes. Am I clear about this? Yes. Let us start first with natality. What is natality? It is the birth rate of a population. How many individuals are born in a particular period? It has the greatest influence on the growth of a population. Natality is crude birth rate or specific birth rate. What is crude birth rate? Crude birth rate is when calculating population size is per thousand population per year, whereas specific birth rate is a relative term to a specific criterion. Yani ke, what do you mean by this? In a particular age group, so many individuals were born. So many parents have become parents at a young age or at midlife or in a later stage. So there are two things that are actually important. Overall, how much is the natality rate and also in which strata it falls. Example that they have mentioned in the textbook is of a pond. In a pond, a particular fishes were found. However, in the next year, particular number of fishes were added, because of which the population now has increased. So the number of birds under ideal conditions where there is no competition, they are flourishing happily, there is abundance of resources, is absolute natality. Absolute natality मतलब क्या? जहाँ पे a particular organism is flourishing, उसको किसी भी तरह का कोई disturbance नहीं है, उसको किसी भी तरह की कोई interruption नहीं है, then that becomes the absolute natality of that particular population. There is another one which is realized natality, which is the number of births when environmental pressures come into play. There could be so many interruptions, and in spite of that, there has been a birth rate that is seen in a particular setup, and that birth rate which is seen in spite of interruptions, in spite of any barriers, is said to be realized natality. We need to remember that absolute natality will always be more than the realized natality. Overall growth will be more than actually growth seen in environmental pressures, right? So there may be many distractions today when you are studying this, but whatever actual growth happens, which is because of your own study patterns, reading, referring, going through videos, and also the lectures will eventually help you in your learning. Coming to the second point, what is mortality? Mortality is the death rate of the population, how the population organisms die within. Mortality rate or death rate is the number of deaths that you see in a particular population. This mortality rate is typically expressed just like natality, which is deaths that are seen in per 1000 individuals in a year. That decides the death rate or the mortality rate, depending on which again you have just like natality, absolute mortality, and realized mortality. Mortality, which is totally seen when there are resources that are seen in abundance, and realized mortality, where the environmental pressures come into play. There is a pressure that you see in the environmental conditions also. The next point that we are seeing is the sex ratio. And why do we study the sex ratio? The sex ratio of a population will affect the overall birth rate, overall death rate, overall immigration and emigration rates. These conditions will be decided by the sex ratio. You also know today when you're studying the social evils, one of the evils that you see is gender discrimination and gender inequality in terms of number also. And that is why we say that save the girl child, because the girl child decides the well-being of a population. But right now, we are not talking that. Right now, what we are talking is how the total number of females in a population decides the overall growth, functioning, and well being of a population. And that is why the sex ratio is important and it has to be studied. The males and the female in a ratio of 1:1 is generally the most common evolutionary stable strategy. The strategy where 1:1 is seen in a population in an environment helps a population to flourish, because as much as there is a donor, there is a receiver in the form of females, and that helps the population to flourish. Now you might say, you might question, because I have raised an objection not to talk in between, you all are not coming up with questions. Otherwise, generally you do. But let me say this. You might come up with a question wherein Why is there a need for us to maintain the ratio? There is so much of data available today on the net that talks about why the need for 1:1. If the population is in balance, imagine today we have human beings who are facing this problem of overpopulation. But if there is an organism which has very little number of males, let's take into consideration the rhinos, the white rhinos, where the males are very little in number. And these white rhino females, now there is a need of sperm bank, and hence the sperm has to be transferred. And to overcome such a crisis, we need the population to be in an equal ratio. And thereby comes to come to another point, which is age distribution and age pyramid. If we want a country to flourish and if we want its economy to grow, we need to have maximum population in the working zone for an economy to flourish of a country. So if we have young population which is in the working age limit, our economy will flourish. Today, there are so many countries where they have, because they don't want kids, where they have group of individuals belonging to the age strata, which is senior citizen strata. And that is why their economy is not so strong. So there has to be a complete balance in the age distribution, thereby resulting in age pyramid. A population is composed of individuals of different ages. If the age distribution is plotted for the population, the resulting structures is called as the age pyramids. And they have given us an example of the age pyramids in diagram number 13.3 for your reference. To understand or make it simple, the entire population is divided into three age groups: pre-reproductive, before the reproductive stage, reproductive age, and post-reproductive age. The size of the population it can support tells us a lot about its status in the habitat. This population in natural habitat could be low or it could go to millions, depending on the population size, depending on how beautifully a population can adapt. You see the growth of the population. The other parts or things that are discussed in the paragraph are very simple. They are talking about examples of termites. They are talking about examples of how ecological balances are maintained in populations, how densities are affected in a population. All of these, they are talking about the population for a particular group of organisms. The next part is population growth. The size of a population for any species is a dynamic parameter, is an important parameter. And this size will keep on changing as we have discussed because of the various factors. The factors could be availability of food, pressure from predators, and the environmental conditions, some of which are beyond our control. In fact, these changes in population density that give us some idea whether it is flourishing or whether it is declining. What do you exactly mean by this? Let's talk about each of these factors in detail. When I talk about the availability of food, can I come to a conclusion that if there is a lot of food available, longevity of life of those individuals to live increases? Definitely. If there is more food, there is more growth. If there is more growth, there is more sustainability, and thereby the numbers will increase. Let's talk about predation. If the organisms have more predators surrounding the population, will that population grow? Definitely not. As and when the predator's number goes down, vice versa. So it is inversely proportional. The more the numbers of predators, the less is the population. The less the number of predators, more is the population. And the third part is environmental factors or conditions like vegetation, like temperatures, like rainfall, all of these. If the population can well adjust and overcome to environmental extremities, that population will still continue to grow. Thus, a population definitely depends on these factors whether it will flourish or not. The density of the population in a habitat during a given period will fluctuate because of new birth, because of immigrations, because of deaths, and because of immigration also. So there is emigration and there is immigration, which is capital I, which is the number of individuals of the same species that have come into the habitat from some other place. And to give you a classical example of this is our Mumbai. There are so many people coming from all over India and settling down here so that they can flourish, right? So this is a classical example. So now the next part on page number 300 is if n is, on that note we shall end this part. If n is the population density at a time, then its density at a time, which is t plus 1, can be calculated. Please ignore this part because I will be discussing this using a slide presentation. So let me come back to from where I started. In today's lecture, you all may unmute yourselves. Whatever little that we have completed has been done without a PPT. It could have been done all by yourselves also. But I thought that we should just go through this at least once so that it becomes easier for you. The next time that we meet, we will start with our usual business, which is using a PPT and just go through the textbook. I'll give you 30 minutes, 30 seconds time, which is we'll be studying growth models, we'll be studying exponential growth, logistic growth, population interactions, for which we will definitely need our PPTs. Had we used our PPTs today with pictures, it would be a repetition of what we are doing today again in the next lecture. And I didn't want that to happen. So, what we have done today is just a normal lecture when we'll be talking about mutualism, when we'll be talking about parasitism, when we'll be talking about, one second, competition, all of these we will require our PPT. And I did not want the same repetition again. So I would want to make it more interesting in the next lecture. I request all those people who had to say something or the other in between, I give you the platform to please put your points across. But I would want you all to please type it in the comment box so that I can read them and get back to you immediately right now. So I will give you exactly say 2 minutes time. Please type down your comments, type down your questions or queries, and I will revert back. Yes? Nafisa is saying something related to adaptations, ma'am. I have seen somewhere on Google that people who have more fat in their body feel less cold as compared to people who have less fat in their body. Is this true? Well, I have read about this, but I don't think this is true. Uh, I don't think so. Uh, I have a fat percentage which is on the higher side, but I definitely feel as cold as the others. Humaira, yes. Ma'am, can you please explain emigration? Humaira, I have explained emigration. My request to you is there is a bit of it that you also need to research. So I would request you to make a small note on emigration and post it on the group. That would be nice. Again, after doing all of this, if you're not able to understand, I will definitely get to it. See, I don't want to reveal everything. There is at least a point 1%, point not 1% that I would like to keep for you to also explore. Okay, it could just be explained in few minutes. There is nothing that needs to be explained actually about emigration. It's just in one line given in your book, but I would ask you to please get into this. Any other question? Anybody? Any other question? Amity, ma'am, your voice is not clear. Yes, I know that, Amity. At times there are connectivity issues. Though trust me, I have the highest network, the highest data plan, so that there is no inconvenience caused. But beyond that, what can be done? However, we have the recording. Ma'am, about the assignment, will you upload it on MS Teams? I will not be uploading. You will have to upload. You have to make a folder. That good that she brought Nafisa. Thank you for that. I would want to mention something about this. You will have to make a folder. Your folder will have 5 slides. You could extend it beyond 5 also. That is okay. These slides will have pictures which now each of the slide will say, for example, have you could use anywhere between 10 to 15 pictures. Minimize the pictures, use them. So make your slide setup which is with pictures, and you attach a separate copy of Word document that will talk about these factors, that is light, temperature, soil, and others. Okay, yes, you could do that. I hope Nafisa, I have cleared your doubt. Any other thing that needs to be discussed? I give you 30 seconds time. Where to post that? I think Humaira and me, we have discussed this in the previous lectures, the first few lectures, that in your uh, bio team, there is a place which says note. Wait, let me just go to it. Class notebook and assignments, where you can upload it. You are already doing this for sociology and other subjects, I have heard. So one of you could just post it, the details for the same, so that it can be done. Okay. Acha, ठीक है. Done? Anything else? Is there anything else that you have to say?
Ma'am, actually,
Please write down. Please write down in the comment box.
okay.
Excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me, ma'am.
Please write down in the comment box, Humaira.
Ma'am, I have written, but it is not sending because I have network issues. It's taking time to
Yeah,
send.
so you send it, I will see it. Okay, I don't want anybody to talk right now. Okay, great. All right. Now, I would want you all to just stop this conversation. Okay. So assignments, I expect you all today is Tuesday. When you write the assignments and when you make your own folder, make sure that you write down your complete name. Okay. Yes. And then you post it and it will be looked into. Could we stop with the conversation, please? Because I need to discuss something very important. All right. I would want you all to now unmute yourselves. I would want you all to also open out on the video part so that we can have a conversation just for 2 minutes. And then we end the lecture because it's 12:35. I don't want to take extra time. So unmute yourselves, all of you. Okay, all right. Yes, great. Now listen to me very carefully, okay? Now, if you see, there was a different approach that I have used today. And what was the approach that I've used? I have not entertained few things. Yes. Could you please tell me what are those few things that I have not entertained?
Use of PPT, not asking questions, two-side
Who is this
interaction.
girl? Yes,
Two-side
I think it is
interaction.
Palak. Palak. 1 second. So
Yes, ma'am.
before that, we'll just stop with the recording, and I need to
Yes.
discuss this. Okay, we'll just stop with the recording first. Okay.